Dear students, let us start discussion on today's newspaper, that is 12th May 2017. The first article, New Technology and World Religion. There are certain fundamental questions which are being posed over here. Is technology becoming a new god? Technology and religion, are they coming close to each other? And how they are different from each other? What is the impact of this on human autonomy? These are the questions which we need to answer. Today, we are talking about augmented reality, where you can see something which is non-existing through technology. Now, both religion and technology are seeing physical limitations as something unwanted for. So, a mind or body has to be liberated from the physical limitations that exist. In that way, technology and science, they are coming close to each other. But they are not one and the same. The objective of science is not just to understand nature, it is also aiming to create nature. If you talk about cloning, BT crops, and artificial intelligence, everything is about science wants to become God. But science without humanity cannot be God ever. And second aspect to this is, the science which is growing close to religion is very much different from religion. Because religion was always with society or through community. But the augmented reality, artificial intelligence, these are creating a delusional personality, and they can never come close to religion and what the relief the religion has provided to humanity. But to an extent, they have the similarities that both of them are questioning the physical constraints which are held by individuals. Next is, what is in generic name? You know that recently Medical Council of India has passed the orders to the doctors that they have to prescribe drugs only with generic names. So what is the meaning of generic name over here? Is this a name which is being universally accepted? Do we have uniform names in India? These are the questions. Now in India, many of the drugs are available in fixed dose combinations. How therapeutically useful these fixed dose combinations are not clear. And most of the drugs are not available in generic formulations. It means if a name is being prescribed, it is left to the pharmacist to decide what has to be prescribed to the patient. And above all, there is no control over the administration of the drugs in India, or the control over the drug administration or drug prescription is divided across multiple agencies. So what the author suggests is, if the drugs have to be made affordable, more essential drugs have to be prescribed and brought under the drug control. And fixed dose combinations have to be reduced. Bioavailability and bioequivalence tests have to be prescribed for generic drugs to prove their therapeutic efficacy. So these are the things which this article is talking about. TB timelines. You know that Lancet has recently published that multiple drug-resistant TB is increasing in India. Here we need to understand what is MDR-TB, XDR-TB. In the treatment of TB, there are first-line drugs and second-line drugs. The second-line drugs are effective and not as efficient as the first-line drugs. Now, there is a resistance which is growing to the first-line drugs. This is called MDR-TB. Now, XDR-TB is a resistance to fluoroquinolones, a kind of antibiotic, plus any of one of the second line drug, that is XDR-TB. So this MDR-TB is growing in India till date mostly due to ineffective treatment regimens or discontinuation of the treatment in between. But Lancet has clearly stated that the transmission of the disease will be from infected person to the other. So, it is no more just due to ineffective treatment. It is also due to transmission from one person to other person. And that leads to the rapid rise of incidence of MDR-TB. India has a target to eliminate TB by 2025. So, in this context, what India has to do? It has to break the transmission cycles. It means a TB patient, if he comes in contact with others, these contacts have to be screened and preventive treatment has to be given to children in the family. And early diagnosis and treatment It means the diagnostic kits have to be made simple. And above all, the MDR-TBs or data on the MDR-TB or XDR-TB need to be evaluated from time to time. And the drugs need to be tested for, or drug susceptibility tests shall be made available throughout the length and breadth of the country. So these are the guidelines that can be followed. And coming to a clear misfire. Now it is in the context of the United States of America. Mr. Trump has fired Mr. Comey, the FBI director. In the United States of America, FBI director enjoys security of tenure, that is 10 years of office, and he has been appointed after approval by the Senate. So in this context, President dismissing the FBI director, it has brought into question conflict between political interference and autonomy of the investigative agencies. The same topic is in discussion with regard to CBI director in India. Don't see the discussion more than that in this particular case. Should we do away with capital punishment? That is what is the question. Now I am going to make some elaborate discussion over here because it is an expected question. You know that the crimes are not just individual. These are also shall be seen as a failure of socialization. So in this context, if you are offering a capital punishment, you are seeing the crime as an individual act rather than failure of society. And second, internationally, the countries are moving away from capital punishment. If India wants to get into some criminal exchange agreement, this has to be not, or else it may not be possible if capital punishment is considered. And then, Supreme Court of India in Bachan Singh versus State of Punjab case clearly stated that it has to be given only in the rarest of rare cases. But most of the trial courts are liberally offering the capital punishment, which is not standing in superior courts during the appeal process. So how many cases are going for appeal is the question. Because many of the poor people, marginalized sections may not go to the appeal process due to their financial situation. So the worst affected are weak and marginalized because of the capital punishment. And then the state cannot take away the sanctity of life. And there is also no empirical evidence that harsher the punishment is, the crimes will come down. So harsher punishments acting as a deterrent, there is no clear empirical evidence for the same. And objective of justice is to reform, not to retribute. These are the things which we need to keep in mind. So what are the counter arguments? The tougher punishments will act as a deterrent for others to commit the same. It gives a sense of justice to the aggrieved person. This is the counter argument to it. Now, let's get into the front page. The Supreme Court not to examine validity of polygamy. Here, Supreme Court has clearly stated what are the boundaries of its examination of triple talaq. It will look into the constitutionality of triple talaq and also is it an approved religious practice or not. In a way, it is stating that it is going to examine the triple talaq in alignment with the Article 25 of the Constitution indirectly. And then the GM, the government regulator, gives nod for GM mustard. You know that GEAC, Genetically Engineering Approval Committee under Ministry of Environment and Forests, it gives approval to the GM crops. So GM mustard was given approval for commercial cultivation. That is what the article about. Now, voluntary unemployment is rising. What is this voluntary unemployment? For example, I have studied or else I have spent so much on education and I became an engineer. So I don't want to work for 10,000 rupees. So I don't want to accept an underemployment. This is what is called voluntary unemployment by Vivek Debrai. In this article, he also states that the statistical information with regard to labor records are not very clear in India. And a new series of IIP Index of Industrial Production and WPI data are coming up. As of now, 2004-2005 is the base year, and it is expected that 2011 and 12 will become the base year, so that the comparison of the data becomes more appropriate. So these are the issues for discussion today. And I have prepared the notes and they will post the notes from today. And thank you very much and all the best.